Hokie hangover. It is Monday night. Two football games going on, but we appreciate those of you that have joined us tonight. We want to talk about this Virginia Tech game on Saturday that was not all that enjoyable, Michael, but nonetheless, we are obliged to do a recap, but also we've got some coaching stuff to talk about tonight.
We do. So thank you for everybody for joining.
Yeah, shout out to Counts Family Pharmacy, Home Field Apparel. Continue to support the show. We appreciate it. You know who needs some support, Mike? This Virginia Tech defense. That's who needs some support.
Yeah, it's to the point where like I come into these recaps. What was the Brian Kelly press conference last year in the opener where they lost and he did the whole we keep talking about the same things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got to pound the table, Mike.
Yeah, got to pound the table. The linebacker play was bad. Georgia Tech didn't really run anything that exciting in this game. They were pretty intent, especially in short yardage, to run the same play like 14 times and see if Virginia Tech could stop it. Sometimes the Hokies did, sometimes they didn't.
Mike, you know what it reminded me of? Paul Johnson.
Yeah,
it drove me bananas on Saturday watching Georgia Tech continue to run this like half wishbone, half option, half spread offense of constant misdirection, a ton of pulling, a ton of trapping, constantly fooling with the Hokies' eyes. And the offense looked like it was straight out of the 90s.
Yeah, they run shotgun option, basically. It's worked well for them.
And they ran for almost 270 yards in this game.
Yeah. I told Joey, I recorded the ACC pod last night. I told Joey that I somehow came away. I knew Virginia Tech probably wouldn't play too well here. This game kind of played out. I don't want to say it played out exactly how I thought, because that would not be true. Like, Brent Key going for two early in the game, for example. I was like, what are we like? What's going on here?
Talk about disrespect, right?
I was like, what's happening here? So I don't want to say it played out exactly how I thought, but in terms of how we talked about on the preview, I think it was pretty close to how we, in general, talked about the game going, right? Like Virginia Tech would get themselves within striking distance of like making it competitive, but would never really threaten to win the game. That's pretty much how this thing played out from like the second quarter onward, I would say. It wasn't,
they were tied from the second quarter on.
Right. And it wasn't perfect by any stretch. I thought Virginia Tech got off to a really poor start. This was, I think, the worst start they got off to in the last 4 games, right, of Montgomery's interim tenure. I just thought it was a really poor start to the game.
Yeah.
And then they settled in and played better. Played kind of how I thought they would play, right, the rest of the way, which was, not perfect, but there were some flashes of good, some flashes of bad. So it kind of went how I expected in that regard. I told Joey I came away a bit more disappointed with Georgia Tech. Like, I think Georgia Tech's defense especially is just not great, like especially against the run. Virginia Tech ran the ball well. Now some of it was like empty calorie stuff, obviously, right? But
the yards were there all day.
They were there. Like, yeah, like the running plays were there, and they've kind of been there against Georgia Tech's defense all year, which is why I like look at Georgia Tech and where they're sitting. Like, they're 12th in the country. Are they the 12th best team? No, I don't think so. Are they a top 30 team? Yes. Do they have a top 20 resume? Yes. Like, they've beaten, I think it's like they've beaten 4 power conference teams, which is not something you could, like, if you go down the top 20, that's not something you could say about every top 20 team.
Yeah, but are any of those teams good would be my counterpoint to that.
There are several teams. How I would explain it is there are several teams that I would take over Georgia Tech that are ranked behind them on a neutral field, like several teams. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I didn't come away all that impressed with Georgia Tech. I've seen a decent amount of their games this year. This is kind of the last 2 games they've played against Wake Forest and now Virginia Tech. I don't think they've looked particularly good. I thought Haynes King was good on Saturday. Ran the ball well, threw the ball well. My bigger thing is Georgia Tech's defense. I don't think is that good. And I think when they go up against a better offense, like, I don't know, on Saturday, for example, against Duke, I think there's a chance that they could be exposed a little bit. Duke opened as a favorite in that game this upcoming Saturday. So do with that what you will. But yeah, I think there's a shot, obviously, for Georgia Tech to be had here. Not a perfect team. They do have a pretty nice schedule, and they're playing competently enough to their credit, right? I don't think they're a top 15 team. But anyway.
Teams currently ranked behind Georgia Tech in the latest AP poll, which came out yesterday: Notre Dame, Oklahoma, BYU, Missouri, Vandy, UVA, USF, USC, Texas, Memphis, Utah, Cincy, and Nebraska. Several of those teams would probably be favored over the Yellow Jackets on a neutral field, to your point.
Right.
Couple things to me stood out. Obviously, the old school offense that Virginia Tech just had no idea how to slow down really frustrated me. And the fact that it wasn't Jamal Haynes that ran the show. Malachi Hosley absolutely obliterated this team on the ground, the backup running back. Just inexcusable as far as I'm concerned. I've not seen a whole lot to like from Sam Seifkis this year. There's been very little, especially over the last several weeks, where it seems like Seifkis has got this thing figured out. Just not a good day on the ground. And also one of Haynes King's best passing days statistically. However, he didn't have to do much. Most of his throws were play action to the flat, short throws, wide open receivers. Did not have to do a ton, but statistically 20 to 24 for 213 and a touchdown, no picks. I mean, that's pretty solid for the kind of offense that they're running. But Tech had no idea how to slow down the passing game, which was pretty basic, pretty vanilla stuff. And obviously on the ground, it seemed like they got completely lost from start to finish almost.
Yeah. It's been very up and down this year. I think Virginia Tech's done a better job against the run the last couple weeks leading into this game. And then Georgia Tech's they got a good offense. They were scheming up some stuff in the running game that I thought was pretty impressive in terms of how they were blocking things up front. But in terms of just in general, the plays they were running the same thing over and over and over again. Seeing if Virginia Tech could stop it, a lot of times they could not.
Correct. Also, Tech's offense was 0 for 8 on third down, which was a big part of this one. Kyron didn't really have any consistency in the passing game, had some nice plays, had some not so nice plays. Seemed like they got away from the run quite a bit in this one. They just couldn't stick with it. And I think that was maybe one of the more frustrating parts, given that we know that Georgia Tech's defense has struggled a little bit against the run. They were struggling against the run on Saturday. And I think, Mike, this has been one of the biggest qualms I've had with Virginia Tech since Montgomery took over, really all season, although it was less of an issue in this game, was that it seems like the Hokies are still trying to throw the ball way too much.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but Kyron did only have 21 throws in this game. And granted, it was game script, so take that into account. But it still feels like early in the game, Virginia Tech was hesitant to try and establish the run in the first quarter.
Yeah, they don't have a quarterback that is particularly accurate, and they don't have an offensive line that's particularly good at protecting the passer. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you take game script into account, but like you said, they were throwing the ball a lot early, which I
don't understand why they're not trying to run a similar offense to Georgia Tech right now, given the personnel that they have. They're not strong at receiver. They don't have a game-breaking guy on the outside. The offensive line is not very good. However, your strength is in your mobile quarterback who's tough and physical, and you've got a cadre of running backs you should be able to rely on.
Yeah, he's also Drones is better outside the pocket. Like, he's more comfortable throwing on the run, all that stuff.
You've been saying that for 3 years.
And yeah, like Virginia Tech's best offense a couple years ago when they started finding their stride the second half of the 23 season was they started rolling the pocket with their bad offensive line, took some pressure off of it, and started playing better. They just have totally gone away from that. Try to make Drones a pocket passer or something he's not. So I don't know. You continue doing that, you're gonna get burned, which we're good for like one bad Drones turnover a game at this point, and it just kind of is what it is.
Sure seems that way. Tech's got a bye week, obviously, this weekend. They get Cal, Louisville, Florida State, Miami, and Virginia. I would love to see, especially in this Cal game coming up here in a week and a half, if Tech can try and find a way to keep Kyron under 20 throws. I think that has to be the goal. I understand that Montgomery comes from more of a pass first offense. That's kind of been his MO. But at a certain point, like if we're trying to win and we're trying to take advantage of the roster that we do have, not the one that we wish that we had, use your running backs, man. Like Terrion Stewart, Marcellus Hawkins, PJ Prelo. You can get those guys 10, 15 touches a game. I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't. And Kyron should be running the ball probably 10 times a game. I mean, and if you're Tech, it sounds kind of, awful to say at this point, but this is Kyron's final year. You might as well run him into the ground while you got him. Like if you're trying to win football games and the pass game is just not working, the operation's not smooth, why not put the guy out there 10 to 12 times a game in the run game and see what he can do?
Yeah,
let him run. He did it on Saturday, ran for 80 yards.
Yeah, let him run the ball before he has to do insurance and run the numbers next year. Like, let him have some fun.
Clip that.
Let him have some fun. Let a guy live a little bit.
Yeah. 35-20 in this one. Like you said, Tech never really was in a position to win. They were within striking distance. They got this to a one-score game, I think, twice, which was something I mentioned in my column yesterday, was that this was actually the first game that I have turned off in the middle of the game this year. It's actually It's actually the first time I've done that in a while, and the game left me really just completely frustrated with the fact that Georgia Tech is a program that, again, is struggling to put 50,000 people in the seats. They don't recruit all that well. They're running an offense from the Stone Age, and they're out there kicking our ass. I mean, they're just putting belt to ass. And I just had enough. And again, I still don't think Virginia Tech is quitting. The effort still looks like it's there. I hope that it's that way for the remainder of the season, Mike. It wouldn't shock me if we get into this final 3-game stretch against FSU, Miami, and UVA where things look a little quitty. Maybe not in the UVA game, but certainly against Miami later this year. But I really hope that Tech maintains this level of effort because honestly, that's all that we really have to hang our hats on at this point.
Yeah, I agree. It's gotten to the point now, especially where Tech's always like on a third or fourth screen for me. Like I'm watching this game Saturday in the 3:30 window that's loaded. It's a lot of real like Saturday, this past Saturday in particular, just when this game was on, I was like, man, there are some really good college football games on in this window today. But I still want to have an eye on what's going on with Tech rather than, a couple times earlier this year, like the NC State game, for example, that was the same weekend as Oregon, Penn State, and some other games that were on. And it was there on a separate screen for me. And then I'm like, wait a minute, like, this is getting more competitive than I thought. Now we're putting this on a main screen and we're keeping an eye on the other stuff. Tech's been like a second or third screen watch here for basically a month, but just because of how frustrating it's been post ODU, especially like ODU. So second half of Vanderbilt, I shut the game off when it got really out of hand in the fourth quarter. Okay. That was like my peak frustration was watching that Vanderbilt game. and then seeing what happened against Old Dominion, it was just kind of laughable, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like the last time I shut the game off. I haven't been shutting Virginia Tech off since then because I think the team's playing hard for Montgomery. And it's just kind of like piquing my interest watching this team play week to week, just seeing like what version of them is going to show up. And I think to Montgomery's credit as an interim, because it's really hard to keep everybody bought in. They still had like something to play for coming out of the NC State game, you know, great win. And now you have games against Wake and Georgia Tech, and you try to see if you can make a push and, you know, try to attain bowl eligibility. The problem is that when you lose the game as sloppily as you did to Wake Forest, and then you come back and have the start you have against Georgia Tech, it's like all that positive momentum is gone from that NC State win. And college football in general is just a very week-to-week sport because these are all 18 to 22-year-olds that are just trying to put it together. Everybody's got different motivations now, too, with the money aspect of college athletics, too. And that is kind of a wild card of who's going to be bought in, who's not going to be. You know, a lot of these kids are getting paid just to kind of show up and go through the motions. So that's what they're going to do. Some of them are going to play for pride. A lot of them are going to play for pride. I should probably give a lot of the kids more credit. There's more teams that are trying hard than quitting for sure, week to week when you're watching the sport. But yeah, I have the same thoughts as you. I hope the team continues to play hard for Montgomery because I do think he's putting his best foot forward every week. And I do appreciate what he's doing for the program in a short time here, trying to have the guys ready to play. He's been really forthcoming in the press conferences. He's obviously in a very tough spot, right? But the team continues to play hard. And I will say it's a much more competent product. The team's not very good, but it's a much more competent product week to week than it obviously was at the outset of the season. I think that's a credit to Montgomery for sure. Now, I don't want that to be lost here because he was put in a really tough spot, and I think the kids are still playing hard for him. I think there's something to be said for that in a lost season.
Not once has Virginia Tech under Montgomery looked anywhere near as bad as they did in the second half against Vanderbilt.
Agree.
And the entire game against Old Dominion.
Totally
not
agree.
One time.
Not a single moment.
Yep. He deserves a lot of credit for that. Now, I can't say that that's going to be the case here in a few weeks. We'll have to wait and see. But I at least will feel like the team will be ready to play emotionally and mentally, and they may just lose out on the talent side, which at this point is what it is.
Yep.
The hope has to be that that's not going to be the case in the short and long-term future, but we need to figure out who the hell is going to be coaching Virginia Tech at this point. And I know Andrew was really hoping he could be here tonight, especially for this part of the discussion, because I think this is really kind of the meat and potatoes of what tonight's show will be. Virginia Tech is obviously still looking for a head coach. Since Virginia Tech fired Brent Pry, multiple jobs have come open, including a rather large one this weekend. Penn State moving on from James Franklin. Really quick, Mike, you obviously write a lot about national topics for SI. Did Penn State overreact?
Yeah, I think so. I if you're leading my column on Saturday nights, if you're leading it in the coaching category, 2 of the last 3 weeks you've been fired the next day. So maybe just
Sam Pittman and
James Franklin now. I will say I did write, you know, as part of like the hot seat check that I do on Saturdays, I did write for Franklin in particular that it's probably over, but not until the end of the season when they do like a mutual parting of ways thing. I was not. Nope. I was very surprised they pulled the trigger yesterday. It was kind of shocking. Now, I know it's going to be kind of a lost rest of the season anyway, because you lose Drew Aller, and regardless of what you think of Drew Aller, he's better than we think. He's better than what else they have on the bench.
Would be nice to have Bo Perbula right now.
Right, it would for sure. And I think really from Franklin's standpoint, I think he lost his job based on a poor quarterback decision. Like, you think it's pretty crazy, the turn of events, right? Like, this calendar year, by the way, like 9 months ago, they were in the Orange Bowl, tied with Notre Dame, had the ball with like 40 seconds left with a chance to go down, kick a field goal, and go to the national championship game. And Drew Aller threw a bad interception. And they lost that game. 2 weeks ago, 2 full weeks ago, they were about 16 days ago now. So we sit here recording on Monday night. They were leading Oregon in overtime, right? Oregon, of course, they tied the game. They took the lead. And then what happened? Drew Aller threw an interception. They lost. And then the last 2 weeks against UCLA, Aller did not look good against UCLA. He played better against Northwestern, but not good enough to beat a pesky Wildcats team that's playing some pretty good football under David Braun. And lo and behold, you lose your job, right? You go from being on the cusp of going to a national title game to being on the cusp of beating Oregon, right, in Happy Valley and picking up a huge signature win, to now being out of the job in like a 16, 17 day span, or if you're dating back to the semifinal, like a 9-month span. You were on the cusp of a national title appearance and now you're out of a job. There's a lot of money in college football now. There's a lot less patience with athletic departments because of the amount of money that's in it. So James Franklin losing his job did not surprise me. Him losing his job in season on Sunday was a shocker for me, even though I thought they would probably part ways at the end of the year. That was a surprise they pulled the trigger so early. Or so quickly, I guess.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious that UCLA and Virginia Tech could potentially find better candidates than Deshaun Foster and Brent Pry.
Yeah.
Which is why you make those moves so early in the season, and you make those moves, period. I don't know that Penn State is going to be able to find a head coach that has a better resume than James Franklin does. And I say that as somebody that, as I put out on X earlier today, I've been rooting against James Franklin for years. I always root against Penn State. I can't stand Penn State. So I've had no problem rooting against James Franklin for quite a while. And it's just no denying, though, that what he's done there has been pretty exceptional. And it kind of reminds me of the Bo Pelini firing at Nebraska, even though it feels like James Franklin has had more sustained success at Penn State than even Pelini had. But when you make these firings, you have to be mindful of the fact that you now have to go think you must think that you can find somebody that's better, and that someone better is going to be willing to take that job. And I was listening to the Cover 3 today, the quick bit about, some of the guys that are being thrown around for that job. And I mean, like Signetti, I don't know that he leaves Indiana for Penn State. I'm not sure that he would.
Yeah.
People were talking about potentially Dan Lanning. Absolutely not. Like, there's no shot that he would leave. So now you're starting to look at like second tier candidates, like a Dan Mullen or, I don't know, like maybe Silverfield or somebody like that. You're looking at kind of these second or third tier candidates, and you're a team that's supposed to be competing for a national championship, and you're now going to be paying $49 million to buy out this head coach that has done nothing but win essentially 8+ games every single season for somebody that, who knows, they may not work out. So it's a hell of a risk. But the main reason we bring up Penn State here is two things. One, this is another opening that Virginia Tech is going to have to compete with in the open market. And obviously, we'll have to talk about whether or not James Franklin should be on the coaching board for Virginia Tech. But first, I want to talk about these open FBS jobs that we have at the moment. I have 8 tallied: Penn State, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, UCLA, Stanford, Oregon State, and I think today was UAB when Trent Dilfer got fired. I have Virginia Tech right now as the third best opening amongst these schools. I have Penn State number 1 and Oklahoma State 2. I have Tech 3, Arkansas 4, UCLA 5, and Stanford 6. Am I on base there, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think you could flip Oklahoma State and Virginia Tech either way, and that'd be
the
fine.
only reason I put Oklahoma State over Tech is that I feel like the Big 12 has more stability than the ACC does.
Yep.
Also, the recruiting in the Midwest, I think, could be a little bit easier for a school like Oklahoma State than a school like Virginia Tech that's having to recruit in the Mid-Atlantic, which is poached by schools across the country. Obviously the state of Virginia gets poached, North Carolina gets poached, Maryland gets poached, the DC area. It just feels like Oklahoma State has a little bit better of an edge there. And I think the fan support is probably equal, maybe a little less than Virginia Tech, but it's still pretty strong there in Stillwater.
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made. Well, we'll see. There's an argument to be made that there's more institutional support for football at Virginia Tech than there is for Oklahoma State.
Depends on if they can execute this damn plan.
But that is totally dependent on if they execute this plan that they were pounding their chests about. And I don't want to. We'll get into that in a few minutes. I don't want to spoil anything, but
yeah,
that it's anyway. Yeah, I think Penn State's immediately the top job on the market. Immediately, out of what we've seen so far, I think everybody else is kind of playing from behind there. And yeah, I do think Virginia Tech remains one of the top jobs on the market. I think they will eventually end up as maybe the fourth or fifth best job on the market with some of the jobs that could open here.
Yeah.
I mean, I think obviously a big one that is likely to open just because of their schedule alone and the fact the results haven't been there is Florida. And like Florida would automatically become, if not the top job on the market, the second best job on the market to Penn State, one or two, 1A, 1B, whatever. So, I mean, that would immediately, jump ahead of Virginia Tech. And, there are some others, right, that are out there that could open. Florida State, like if this starts sliding for Norvell, Florida State could open. That's a better job than Virginia Tech. So, I think eventually, Virginia Tech's going to slide down a little bit, but it's all about, does the candidate value you? And what does a candidate see this job as, especially now with the institutional push, right? The Virginia Tech is claiming to be putting into football, to their athletic department, but namely football. And what are they telling these coaching candidates and how do they view the job? Because ultimately, that's all that matters. Like, we could sit here and we can rank the jobs all day, Rick, but if one of the top candidates on the market chooses Virginia Tech, that's all that ends up mattering in the end. So,
for sure. And each candidate is going to rank these jobs differently, obviously, for their own personal factors, whether it be location or, preference of fan support versus not caring. I mean, some coaches may not care that UCLA can't put more than 1,000 fans in the seats, but a lot of coaches probably will care that UCLA doesn't really have any sort of consistent fan support whatsoever. And they're also running in the red, just huge numbers
right
over there. But Tech is going to be in a weird spot in this coaching market because even their own standing amongst the other programs is kind of in limbo. It's not like Virginia Tech is really a known quantity, just because we don't really know if the specifics from this athletic funding plan that the Board of Visitors has already approved are going to be A, executed, and B, how well. I mean, are they going to be, and also are they even going to be surpassed by their schools, right? We saw that Stanford got a $50 million gift for their football program. So it's interesting to see how that affects the Cardinal and if they're able to take football seriously with a new head coach. And for the record, I have Stanford 6th under UCLA just because of the Big Ten ACC difference, even though UCLA is a just ungodly mess right now as a football program. I have Stanford ahead of Oregon State and UAB, and that's not saying much. But it's all going to come down to this funding plan, something that Virginia Tech has been touting publicly for a while up until recently, where it seems like they've gone a little bit radio silent. Apparently, Whit Babcock was supposed to be speaking with the media this week, and that has been canceled. That is not going to happen. And we found out today from Andy Bitter at Tech Sideline that members of the coaching search committee of Virginia Tech have been asked to sign NDAs to participate in this process, non-disclosure agreements. I haven't been doing this very long, Mike. I'm only 31. I've covered a couple coaching searches. I've obviously seen many from afar, but I haven't seen, I want to say two things. Number one, I have no memory of any coaching search that's involved in NDA. Two, I was reading a little bit more on this. Apparently, Virginia Tech does do NDAs for university hiring committee processes. So if the university were to have a hiring committee for a high faculty position, they apparently do NDAs. Given that so much of this committee is being run by the Board of Visitors, do you think that plays a role at all in this whole, push to be secretive and hush hush?
Yeah, I do. I also, my issue isn't that they're signing NDAs. I don't really care. Like, people are up in arms about this. Oh, they're trying to make this like another reason to be mad at Witt or Sands or whatever. I don't really care that they're signing NDAs. Like, it doesn't really bother me. Okay, they're signing an NDA. Great. Who cares? My bigger thing is just the change in optics, right? It's like a PR thing for me more than, oh, they signed an NDA. They don't want to talk about the coaching search. I don't give a damn if they talk about the coaching search. You know what I mean? Yeah. My thing is more, if they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. The issue that I have with it is that they were very open, Ricky, with the funding. The board's going to approve this. We're bringing this to the table before a vote. Before Doug Bowman got his hands on it, right? They were very in terms of like the actual like file. They were very open about leaking it. Yes. They leaked it everywhere. They leaked it to Thamel. They leaked it to a bunch of top college football podcasts. They leaked it. Obviously, it was on the boards. Like, if you're on the message boards, it was out there. They were leaking it everywhere, locally and nationally. Arians on McAfee. Like, that was a very intentional thing. Hey, why don't you bring this up on, like, if you're going to be asked about, which you are, right? Why don't you bring this up? It was leaked everywhere that Virginia Tech was going to have an influx of institutional support for the athletic department, namely the football program, to make this job more attractive on the open market, because Virginia Tech and UCLA were the first two jobs that opened this year. They both opened on the same day, and Virginia Tech wanted to get that out there that, hey, this is what the job was. This is what the job is and is going to be for a new football coach. They were very public about getting that out there, right? To the point where Thamel goes on College Game Day that following Saturday and says, oh, they're going to approve this. They have this, they have that. So to go from that to, oh, we're going to have a scheduled media session with local media, and we are going to talk about the coaching search to the extent that we can, and where the funding is, right, from the Board of Visitors, like post Board of Visitors meeting, how are things going? We're going to schedule this discussion with the media, then cancel it and say we're all signing NDAs is a weird about face. I don't get it. What is the upside for Virginia Tech to do this, right? Not the NDA thing, but it's just like, be so like open about touting the program and the job and trying to get that out there on the open market for prospective candidates, to then turning heel. And when you have another opportunity to get some good PR out there, you decide you're not going to do that. You're going to shut it all down and bring it in-house. What is the point? I don't get it. From a PR standpoint, I do not understand it. It's a weird 180. I think fans have a right to be a little upset about that. But as far as like them signing the NDA and not wanting to talk about the coaching search, I get that and I'm okay with it. It's more of just like the mixed signals from a PR standpoint makes Tech look like they don't have their ducks in a row. And I don't know that that's the case. You know, it's hard to give this athletic department the benefit of the doubt without things have gone post Beamer, right? and some of the missteps under Witt, like think back to Fuente. We're all thinking, we all get that media Zoom availability, right? We're all thinking that Fuente is going to get fired. This is during COVID, remember? We're all thinking that Fuente is going to get fired the next day. Instead, we get this weird press conference from Whit Babcock where he's saying that he talked to other coaches in the ACC who said Virginia Tech was like hard to prepare for and they should keep Fuente. It was like, of course they were saying that. They were all kicking his ass. Like, of course they were saying that. And that's just like the one that sticks out in my mind where I was just like, man, this is a PR nightmare. And Witt did the whole thing. We're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater or whatever. And then it turned into whatever it was that Pry inherited in year one, where we were having trouble pulling away from Wofford. And it's like, okay, great. We didn't have to do this. We could have just gotten this over with a year ago, gotten this more up to speed quickly. Pry wouldn't have inherited an absolute nightmare of a roster. Like, this could have gotten off to a better start for the new guy too, if you guys like took it a little more seriously. So it's just the latest in a series of missteps. I just don't get it, Ricky. I don't think the NDA is that big of a deal. Like, I'm not going to like go up in arms about it. I just don't get it from the PR side of it at all.
Couple things. Tech could have all of these committee members sign non-disclosure agreements and still have them tout the university's funding plan. Like, you don't have to preclude yourself from discussing that just to make sure you stick within your NDA. I would think that would be a worthy approach to try and continue to get support and as much coverage of this as humanly possible, because you're marketing this internally, right, to your fan base and things like that. But more importantly, you're marketing this to coaches across the country and agents across the country that otherwise aren't normally covering Virginia Tech and aren't normally paying attention.
Yep.
And they all listen to McAfee. They all read Pete Thamel. They all read Ross Dellinger or Pat Forty or whoever. Those are the guys that you're marketing this to. So if you're Virginia Tech and a reporter wants to interview Eddie Royal to talk about which happened, Damian Sordelette from the Roanoke Times. If you're Eddie Royal and you're Virginia Tech, why not put him out there to talk about the funding plan? And look, he doesn't have to get into the specifics of the coaching search. He can flat out say, I can't discuss the coaching search. However, I can say we're excited to get a frontline, elite coach in here with a ton of resources. This is how we're doing it, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
And I would think you would want that message all over the college football mediaverse.
You'd rather have it be open with like non-answers than do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Eddie Royal coming out and saying, I can't talk about the coaching search, but then still marketing the program and what the job's going to be, I think is still a valuable thing.
Yeah. I mean, having Bud Foster do an interview with McAfee or with Cover 3 or something like that, some sort of national media brand to discuss, look, we're obviously doing a coaching search. The best part about it is we've got a bunch of new commitments financially from the university. These are all the things it's going to allow us to do. I would want that message everywhere humanly possible. And I would want it out there as many times as humanly possible. This isn't a message that you just put out there once or twice. This is a message that you drill into people's heads for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
And that obviously starting in September, right? You drill this message into their head the entirety of October, the entirety of November, until you've got the coach in the door. That would have been a smarter media plan here, a smarter strategy than kind of doing that quick blitz, which I loved and we praised here on the show, and then all of a sudden lock the doors and throw away the key.
And I just don't get it. Okay. I agree with you. And I don't get it. But that's the way they want to handle it. That's the way they want to handle it. It's just, I think the university could use a PR overhaul. I've been saying that for a while, though.
Yeah, and for the record, I don't think that this is coming from like the athletic communications. I know those folks; they're pretty damn good at their jobs. This feels like a executive level at the university decision,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure that it's the best idea to do this. But
Yeah, this is where there's like the clear disconnect between the academic side and the athletic side, where like you can get away with stuff from the academic side from a PR standpoint that you can't get away from, especially in college football, where there's 8 trillion eyes on you. That's
yep.
yeah, a misread.
Even
I think this is a misread. It feels like a misread.
even in Blacksburg, there are a ton of eyes on you.
Yep.
So James Franklin is obviously out of a job. He's not out of money. He's getting a nice fat check, whether or not it'll be now or spread out over the next couple years. James Franklin will certainly be taken care of financially. So obviously, his name is going to get brought up as it has about Virginia Tech's open position. My thoughts on this are it's entirely dependent on whether or not James Franklin wants to coach.
Yeah,
Does Franklin want to be an analyst on CBS or ESPN or wherever?
he'd be great at it.
Does Franklin want to sit on a beach in Florida or the Bahamas and chill every year? Or is he pissed off and motivated? And is he ready to prove everybody wrong? If that's the case, he's a no brainer.
Yeah,
He would be clearly the top candidate on Virginia Tech's board, in my opinion.
yeah. I mean, let's start with Franklin's contract real quick. There's, for lack of a better term, there's offset language in there, which means that his buyout would be reduced at Penn State if he were to take another job. That's just the easiest way to explain it.
And that's
So
common amongst coaches.
very, very common. So he's owed right around $50 million. They reduced it slightly. It's just under 50 million that he's owed. It goes down. The buyout from Penn State standpoint goes from a little over 49 million to around 18 million if Franklin were to take another job this coaching cycle, right? And the top, he would be paid a lot of money, right, at his next stop. He will be paid. You know, I don't think this is the last we're seeing of James Franklin. I'm sure he's going to coach again. I don't know if he'll do that right away. And a lot of that has to do with what's important to him, right? If he wants to coach right away, he's just pissed off, doesn't really care about leaving money on the table. You'll see him next year. The top coaches, the top paid coaches in the sport that we're aware of are like, we're talking like the Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Dabo land of the sport. They're getting paid like $12 to $13 million a year to coach. So let's just do a quick math problem here. If James Franklin gets paid somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 million next year to coach, and he gets 18 million from Penn State, let's just ballpark it. Let's just do 12 and 18. Let's just say he's paid 12 million, because I think that would be a pretty reasonable dollar price for him. And he gets 18 million from Penn State and the reduced buyout. That's $30 million versus 49. So he'd be leaving a significant amount of money on the table. Whereas, let's say he goes and he does TV for a year, makes like 3 or 4 million doing TV, and then gets to just collect his normal buyout, right? And then a year from now, takes a job. The buyout from Penn State, they pay him essentially what his salary would be this coming school year, which is around 10 or 11 million dollars. He collects that 10 or 11 million. His buyout gets reduced to 18 still a year from now, right? So now you're up to 29 or 30 million. And then on top of that, you can land, I don't know, a 10 or 12 million dollar job, right? So now you're up to 40 million and you just did TV for 3 or 4. Now you're in the neighborhood, right, of what you would have collected if you had just sat out for a year. So I think the most likely, if it's a money thing for Franklin and he wants to try to collect as much money as he can, it would be prudent for him to sit out for a year and take a TV job, because he would make a lot of money on television, sit there, collect his buyout, collect his full salary for a year, get the reduced buyout from Penn State a year from now, and take a job between 10 and 12 million for a major university somewhere. That would probably be the most likely outcome if he cares about money. He's made plenty of money, though. So Who knows what his motivation is? That's just from a math standpoint, that would make the most sense if he wanted to try to collect as much money as he could. Now, from the Virginia Tech standpoint, absolutely agree. Total no-brainer. Like immediately jumps to the top of the list if he's interested in coming to Blacksburg. There are a trillion reasons why. The chief among them is he recruits the hell out of this area. Like Virginia Tech's top competition for their best prospects is Penn State. It's been Penn State almost every year in the DC metro area. He's from Pennsylvania. He's an East Coast guy. He will recruit the heck out of this job if he has the right resources. In addition to that, there is a chance if Virginia Tech wants to pay their next head coach somewhere around $10 million, they could probably stretch it a little further for a guy like Franklin if you're bringing him in. But also, he might be willing to take a $10 million starting salary because he's getting that buyout from Penn State, by the way. You might be able to get him at a little bit of a discount. I wouldn't count on it. It's not going to be like, oh, yeah, he's going to come in at $8 million. But if you want to pay him like 10 instead of 11 or 12 because you're in the middle of a rebuild, I think Franklin might be more open to that because of the money he's getting from Penn State. I don't think James Franklin is going to be the next coach of Virginia Tech. I don't. I just, because of everything I just mentioned and the TV side of it, and I think there's a chance he might just want to break. I would be pretty surprised, but it wouldn't shock me because I think Virginia Tech is going to be attractive enough on the open market that some of these top candidates are going to at least take a look at it. If everything that Virginia Tech's putting out there from an institutional funding perspective is what we perceive it to be, I think it's going to be more attractive than it ordinarily would be. And this is I think a job where Franklin would step in and it would give him some comfort knowing that he's recruited Virginia Tech's recruiting area very well. He has existing relationships from his time at Penn State. So if he were to step in right away, he could probably hit the ground running on the recruiting side pretty quickly, especially if you get some commitments on the NIL side that you would need for a guy like Franklin to take this job. You know, the funding's going, if Franklin takes this job, it means the funding is going to be there and he feels like he can win guys in the portal, win guys on the trail with NIL. That's what it would mean, right? So if you land this type of candidate, which is what we all want this kind of candidate to be interested in Virginia Tech, you have to do it. Like, I don't care that he lost to UCLA and Northwestern. Look at the track record. I do not care. He chose the wrong quarterback. That's a bummer. But like, the pros outweigh the cons here by a lot for a guy like Franklin.
Why are so many people vehemently opposed to Franklin as
I don't know.
the head coach in Blacksburg?
Don't know. Don't get it.
Is it because Brent Pry was also from Penn State?
Stupid reason, by the way. Yeah. They're two different coaches. I mean, Franklin's won everywhere he's been. He's won at Vanderbilt. He took over Penn State when they were coming out of the. Bill O'Brien deserves a lot of credit for what he took over at Penn State, obviously. So I don't want to dismiss that at all. Like, O'Brien did the initial, like, oh my God, we're in a million sanctions. We got like a quarter of our roster scholarship players. Let's like try to put a competitive product on the field. He did that and deserves a lot of credit. And then he left, right? He's like, all right, I'm going to go back to the NFL. Frank and did what? It was a good decision for him. Went to the Texans and had GM responsibilities and stuff. Had a pretty good run there. Franklin comes in, modernizes the recruiting, right? Kicks them into high gear when they're coming out of the sanctions. And look at what he's put together. And everybody's like, oh, he didn't win the big game. I saw Don V put something out there, which is right on the money. When's the last time Virginia Tech's played in a big game? Like, we're worried about the wrong stuff, guys. Like, in this coaching search, we're worried about the wrong stuff. I would love to be in a position where Virginia Tech is having trouble winning college football playoff games to get to a national championship. That would be a great problem to have, considering what we've watched over the last decade. Let's worry about that later.
Yeah. Franklin went 9-4 each of his last 2 years at Vanderbilt, back when that was a just absolute cesspool of a wasteland. He goes to Penn State. Third year, he goes 11 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins. COVID year, bad year in 21, back to 11 wins, 10 wins, 13-3 last year with the semifinal appearance. He's 128-60 as a head coach. He's played in like six, I think he took Penn State to 6 New Year's 6 games in, what is that? Like, I don't know, 12 seasons or something
Yeah.
like that. At a certain point, like, you have to, like, get rid of your recency bias and try and step away, take a look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like, yes, again, I've been rooting against this guy for years. I have wanted him to fail at every opportunity possible. I've been rooting against Penn State for a very long time. I've been rooting against Penn State since Bill O'Brien was there. Okay. Um, I don't know that there would be a better coach available on the market this year, except for maybe a guy like Lane Kiffin. I
Right.
think Lane may be a little bit better of a candidate just because he's got current success right now.
Yep.
But I mean, come on, guys. Like, if you're against James Franklin as the head coach at Virginia Tech, which I am in agreement with Mike, I don't think that's what's going to happen here, just to be abundantly clear. But if you're against it, you're going to have to come up with a serious reason as to why.
Yeah.
And it can't just be, oh, well, you know, Brent Pry was his disciple and it didn't work out here. You think he's going to work out? They're completely different dudes. Like, Brent Pry hasn't won anywhere as a head coach because he's only been at one place and he stunk. James Franklin has won at two places, one of which is impossible to win at unless you're an excellent coach. See Clark Lee.
Yeah.
But also, he won at Penn State, which, again, like Mike said, was still coming out of the Stone Age from where they were at.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't think James Franklin's coming to Blacksburg. If James Franklin is interested and he wants a chance to recruit against Penn State and he wants to stick it to the Nittany Lions, you figure out what the number is and you try and find a way to make it happen.
Yep.
I mean, and you don't let him leave Blacksburg until you at least have an offer that's competitive in front of him.
Yeah. Yeah. You do everything in your power to get a guy like that in the door. This would be the equivalent. Well, maybe this is a bad example, but this would be like Buzz Williams coming in after James Johnson. That's what that would feel like to me. It's like, oh my God, this guy wins and he wants to come coach my program. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. You can come on down. And the thing about the Pry came from Penn State, I don't care. Who cares?
That's like
Pry was never a head coach before. Who cares?
People are still discounting Ryan Silverfield at Memphis.
They're two different guys. This makes me crazy. But Bud Elliott had a great tweet a few weeks ago, and it was in relation to Napier at Florida. Because Napier said Summerall would be a good fit, or Summerall and or Galesh would be a good fit at Florida, right? They thought that, just because they're up and coming and how they would do there.
Napier said that?
Sorry, Bud Elliott said that.
Oh, I was like,
sorry,
okay.
I'm sorry. Bud Elliott said that either Galesh or Summerall would be a good fit to replace Napier. And somebody tweeted, "Oh, we just went group of 5 with Napier and it hasn't worked out. Why would we do that again?" And Bud Elliott said, "That's the dumbest reasoning I've ever heard. That's like turning down a girl named Samantha because your ex-girlfriend, an awesome girl named Samantha because your ex-girlfriend was named Samantha, and you could have had a great marriage with this new girl named, it was just a very good example. Like that's the thing I would caution. Like, all these coaches are different just because they came from, maybe the same school, or they're coming from the same level within the sport, right? They're coming from the group of 5, group of 6 versus Power 5. Like, my one thing I want out of this Virginia Tech coaching search is I want somebody with head coaching experience. We tried it with Pry. It was obvious that how that coaching search went, he was not at the top of the list, but you brought him in, you tried it, it didn't work, right? We did power conference coordinator, didn't work. Let's try, if we can, if we're going to pay $10 million, you're probably going to be able to get a power conference head coach, right? So whether it's power conference or group of 5, group of 6 head coach, let's go back to that well again. That would be fine. Didn't work out with Fuente, and he coached at Memphis a decade ago. So now we're not going to go with Silverfield, who's 2 head coaches removed from Fuente at Memphis. Like, I don't get that. It's not like he replaced Fuente. He didn't. Norvell did.
He wasn't even on Fuente's staff.
No,
right?
It's a totally different guy. a totally different decade of the sport. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like Silverfield was Fuente's successor at Memphis. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Tom Fornelli at CBS Cover 3, for what it's worth, had Virginia Tech listed second right now as the most attractive job to Penn State, which would certainly put Virginia Tech in, if they're in that position in come December, would give them the option to potentially hire one of these elite coaching candidates. And there was a good question that I saw on X. I can't remember where I saw it, but the question was, are there any current sitting Power Four head coaches that would leave for Blacksburg right now? And I don't know that there is, to be honest. If we're looking at a Power Four head coach, I don't know that they're going to be able to pull that. I mean, we all thought that a couple weeks ago that Cignetti was a potential option. Well, newsflash, guys, he's about to potentially win the Big Ten and is on his way to a playoff berth. And Indiana is doing just fine.
I'm not even sure. Like, I'm not even sure he's an option for Indiana. Like, they're going to call him, but like, I'd rather.
You mean Penn State?
For Penn, yeah, the second time I misspoke in a minute and a half. Yeah, Penn. I'm not even sure he's an option for Penn State.
No, I don't think he. What incentive does he have to leave what he's already building?
That's what I'm saying. He's 64.
It's the same conference.
Yep.
Like the money is essentially the same. I think I saw something actually earlier today that said that Indiana's like football expenditures were actually higher than Penn State's this past year.
Matt Brown from Extra Points. I think it was like $2.5 million less or something like that. But they were in the same. The point being, they were in the same neighborhood. Like, people look at those jobs, they think that Penn State is going to like far outspend Indiana. Not anymore.
Now, to be fair, Adidas is about to drop in like a Marshall Plan amount of money at State College, just airlifting cash. So that is something that you have to consider. However, I don't know that Cignetti needs to look elsewhere right now. And if we're looking at other Power Four, coaches, I don't know that any of them would consider a move to Blacksburg.
No, I think there are obviously more options at Penn State's disposal than Virginia Tech's in terms of sitting power conference head coaches. The one name that I think is really interesting that hasn't been brought up with the Virginia Tech job that has already been brought up at Penn State is Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri.
Why would he leave Missouri right now? Why?
Well, it's hard to win the SEC, right? And he's been doing it the last couple of years. They have a good team this year. They obviously lost to Alabama on Saturday. Tough game, went down to the wire. They were within striking distance that entire game, and then got the ball back with a couple of minutes to play, with a chance to go down and potentially tie or take the lead. He's been building a really good program. The last few years, they've been really good.
Yeah.
And it's hard to win the SEC. It's an easier path. It's been brought up in relation to the Penn State job, but even more so, it would be even more the case at Virginia Tech in the ACC. It would be much easier to win, like your path in terms of your path being easier from a scheduling.
I'm not sure that the path to the playoff at Missouri is any more difficult than it is at Penn State. I mean, the Big Ten has 20 teams in it now, right? You've got USC, who's playing good football. Michigan is still a problem. Ohio State is still the elephant in the room. Indiana is all of a sudden an elite football program. Like, there are just almost as many, if not the same amount, of elite programs right now in the Big Ten as there are in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into is Missouri better than like Michigan or USC right now? We'll just sit there and flip. I mean, we could argue pros and cons of that all night. We could flip a coin. But I think the Big Ten is more top heavy, I would say. And I think this would have been more the case, actually, to be honest with you, if Penn State did just lay an egg and open. This would have been more the case. But Indiana has kind of just slid right in and taken their place. Indiana is way better than they were last year, and they made the playoff. I don't think Eli Drinkwitz is leaving Missouri. That's just a name I've seen thrown out there that like if he jumped for a job that would be seen kind of as I think Penn State's a better job than Missouri, but if you were trying to like candy cap it and he's making like a lateral move, which I don't think Virginia Tech is relative to Missouri at this juncture, like that's a guy I could see like potentially looking elsewhere. It's like, all right, I've kind of maximized this. I don't know who from a power conference standpoint would be interested in Virginia Tech. I've seen Mark Stoops thrown around because like Kentucky it's been running stale there the last couple of years. Obviously Stoops almost took the A&M job a couple cycles ago.
To reset the clock move.
Ultimately didn't, got it basically Godfather lifetime extension at Kentucky for lack of a better term because of what he's done there. I think Stoops would come in and probably kill it at Virginia Tech just because it'd be a lot easier for him. Like Virginia Tech, I think would have more at their disposal than Kentucky from a football standpoint, because Kentucky is and always will be a basketball school. But yeah, I don't know. It would have to be a coach kind of looking for a soft landing. Like Hugh Freeze is probably going to get fired from Auburn. Like, is he going to be interested? But you're talking like you're not talking about a guy getting fired, right? You're talking like a sitting, because I mean, there's going to be a lot of guys
that would be willingly leaving a P4 job for Blacksburg.
Yeah, and like I love Matt Campbell. It would be great if Virginia Tech could poach Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell, he's passing on everything like the last 5 years. Like he's had a lot of opportunities to leave Iowa State. He hasn't.
May not pass this year.
Right. Now, I could see Matt Campbell coaching at Penn State for sure. I've seen that name floated around a bunch of different stories I've read. I listened to the Cover 3 podcast yesterday. They talked about Matt Campbell. If it's not going to be Matt Rule, who looks like it's almost like a shoe-in to be the next head coach at Penn State, which I love Matt Rule. I mean, that's not an upgrade for Penn State. That's lateral at best. I like Rule a lot. He's won a lot of different places in varying situations. That feels like a lateral move. It feels like you're just paying for a less expensive Franklin, which flies in the face of what Pat Kraft is saying, the athletic director, when he's saying that they want somebody who's going to elevate this, take it to a championship level. Rule hasn't proven that he can win those games. Now he's been at Temple and he's been at Baylor post sanctions and stuff like that. So his record against top fledged competition, comparing it to Franklin, is not really a fair exercise because of where he's coached previously.
But he also he's been at Nebraska a little bit now, and until this year had not really found any success at all.
And this is also the easiest schedule they've had too. At Nebraska, which plays a role as well. So but back to the Tech conversation of it, I don't know who it would be that's like a sitting head coach that isn't about to get fired. It's going to be in that class of like people who are kind of on the hot seat at their current role and they're trying to reset the clock. Stoops, Freeze if he doesn't get fired at Auburn, like those would be the names. I don't think Matt Campbell's that realistic because I don't think he wants to leave Iowa State. Like he would have done so already. It's got to be his family seems happy. Like I think that's a big part of it. His family's happy. He likes Iowa State a lot.
He's got managed expectations. Like for some reason, they really don't expect him to elevate that program. They just expect him to kind of keep them as a competitive team in the Big 12, but not anything extraordinary. Which is certainly doable in that conference, which is a bit of a mess, at least on the field, and is wide open.
And there's a cap ceiling there too. Like it's a kind of a tough job, right? Like they don't have championship expectations there because I don't think they're spending like a team that should have championship expectations. And he's squeezed all the juice out of that lemon, I feel like. But I think he's also fine just staying there.
Yeah. Yeah, can't really pull a guy out if he's happy. It's October 13th, and Virginia Tech has not really made any moves on the head coaching front. At least no names have been leaked up to this point. I think we're both in agreement that despite these whole NDA stuff, we're going to see names come out of this coaching search. There are going to be leaks. I'm not sure when we should really expect to start seeing those, though. I think it might be a couple more weeks.
Yeah, I think so. What's your feel? What's your feel on this? Like, where do you think? I mean, we neither one of us have any idea where this is ultimately going to land because it's still early. Like, teams are still firing coaches, and that plays into the calculus.
Yep.
I still feel like we're going to end up landing on for better or worse, like the Golash, Summerall, Silverfield class rather than like Franklin. Like, I don't Matt Campbell. Like, I don't think, I think it's going to be one of the like up and coming coaches again, more so than a guy who's been there, done that, won a bunch of places. That would kind of at the power conference level.
You're probably right. Although one point of clarification, I don't think that Silverfield and Galesh are in the same category. I think Silverfield is has a better resume and a better track record than Galesh.
Longer track record.
I would rather have Silverfield. Silverfield's kind of my favorite G5 candidate at the time. I think that he's the most proven of the group. I do think that that's probably where this is heading. Unless somebody, and this is another name that I saw floated out there, and I thought about it a little bit, and I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but if somebody like Jimbo Fisher is getting the itch, right? He's on ACC Huddle. He's doing a bunch of media stuff for them. Is Jimbo kind of getting the feel like maybe he could win in Blacksburg? I mean, is he seeing Blacksburg as maybe his ticket back into the sport? I think that that's a possibility. If we're looking at like actually a splash in terms of what kind of name would generate the biggest buzz. Welcome back, Michael.
What was the name that you mentioned?
Jimbo
before?
Fisher is the name that I think would be. And I don't know if you heard this part, but I think it's a possibility. I don't think it's likely. But as far as likeliness, I think we're in agreement that it's probably a current G5 coach.
Yeah. The problem with Jimbo is like he'll want to run his own offense, which is kind of archaic, and I'm not game with that. Do I think he would recruit well? Probably. Like, probably.
Yeah.
But if he wants to run his own stuff, that's been there, done that.
Yeah, that would be, I think, the most likely name that would generate all the buzz that I think Virginia Tech is going to land.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. Maybe we're underestimating it because of what we think the job is, but I just think that I think the landscape too is going to dictate what kind of candidate Virginia Tech gets, because you could have. I
think Dan Mullen's going to end up back in the SEC.
I think
either
so
at Arkansas,
yeah,
or if Lane Kiffin leaves, I could see him at Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Dan Mullen's going to end up back in the SEC. I think that's where he wants to be. I think he might take Virginia Tech if he feels like UNLV is capped out and he thinks Virginia Tech could be a 2 to 3 year gig before he bounces. Then potentially that could happen, but I don't think Dan Mullen's going to be the guy, as much as I may be excited about that. And I think that would generate some buzz as well.
Yeah, I would like that way more than Jimbo. Yeah. And I'd be fine, by the way. Like, I've seen some fans get upset about the prospect of Virginia Tech being a stepping stone for somewhere else. Don't care. Like, we're down so bad. I do not care. Like, do not care right now. Like, would I care in a few years? Like, if somebody came in, it was a reclamation project.
Who's the best coach in Virginia Tech men's basketball history? Come on, this is not hard.
Buzz?
It's Buzz Williams.
I mean,
what did
I would say Buzz?
It's Buzz. It just is. What did Buzz see Virginia Tech as?
A reclamation project
and a stepping stone.
Mm-hmm.
He was not going to be here. Yeah. He was not going to be here longer than maybe 1 or 2 more seasons. If Virginia Tech needs a mercenary to come in and fix this shit, so be it. Like,
yeah,
I I would rather Virginia Tech have a head coach leave the next go round for a bigger job than because we had to fire somebody. I would much rather that be the problem, because that will have meant we will have had some modicum of success over the next few years, and that guy will be moving on to a school that's got by that point a $300 million athletic budget,
and the job will be that much more attractive to the next guy. And then if you want to worry about staying power, by all means, but not this go around. Not with how this program is struggled.
We talked about this when Brent Pry was dismissed. Virginia Tech needs to find the guy that can win the most within the next 4 seasons. 26, 27, 28, and 29. Those are the 4 seasons that matter the most. And we talked about this before. The ACC is about to implode. The ACC is not going to look the same in 2030 that it looks now. It's going to look very, very different. Where Virginia Tech falls in that blow up will be determined a lot based on what the next 4 years look like. So if you bring in a head coach that will bounce in 4 years if he wins here, who gives a shit?
Yeah, who cares?
Because at that point,
who cares?
You will have potentially solidified your spot at the big kids table, and then you can try and figure out somebody to take over the program, like you said, with some staying power, somebody that can really elevate the program. For right now, you need to get this ship turned around, and if that means handing it over to a mercenary, then so be it.
Yeah. There are going to be leaks, I'm sure, next few weeks. I think Virginia Tech needs to ramp this up, though. And who's to say they're not doing that behind the scenes? We don't know because they're all signing NDAs. So, and
the other problem too is, like you mentioned, a lot of potential candidates are still going to wait and see what other jobs become open, because if Florida opens and Ole Miss opens in the SEC, that changes the calculus entirely. That makes things a lot more difficult for Virginia Tech.
Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn.
Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn, and Florida State. If any of those jobs or all of those jobs open, which I'll say I don't think all of those jobs will open, but I do think at least a couple of them will.
I don't think Florida State's going to open because they got a pretty soft schedule down the stretch. I think they'll probably do this one more year, with Norvell's buyout. They'd have to lose 5 games probably, which I don't think they'd have to lose
to Virginia Tech. Is that what you said?
that would get Norvell fired for sure. Like if you're losing to Philip Montgomery led Virginia Tech at home, yeah, that's probably getting you fired.
Hey man, I'm just saying Florida State. So I made a point in our season preview that when Virginia Tech makes the trip to Tallahassee, Florida State at that point will have already played Florida, Miami, and Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
And that Florida State could be on quit watch.
Yeah.
By that point. Well, I got part of it right. Excuse me, Alabama in that group. Instead, Florida State has played Virginia, Miami, and Pitt.
Yeah.
And the Noles are 3-3. I don't know that the Noles are going to be all that excited about that game. Let's just put it that way.
No, I agree. Oh, you know what? One other job could open. We just named. Well, there's 2. They actually happened to play each other.
North Carolina.
Well, they just. Yeah, I guess that one too. They happened to play each other this weekend. I was going to say, what if things got really bad at LSU? But then I took it one step further and said, how about South Carolina with Shane? Because I am sure there are some folks that are going to be close to decision making that would love to bring a Beamer back to Blacksburg. And I think I'm good on that. I think Shane's a fine coach in a tough job, Rick, but like I think just for the sake of breaking away from this Beamer Foster, like I think we need to go do something different this time.
If Virginia Tech wants to be like a middle of the road Power 4 program and they want to if they want to max out at like 8-4, then Shane's your guy. Go ahead and if he comes open, sign him for, I don't know, $5 million. And Shane will get you 500 most seasons. He may get you 7-5, 8-4. If you want to win the damn ACC, and if you want to try and make your way into the playoff, I'm sorry, Shane's not the guy. He just isn't. He hasn't shown that he can be that guy yet.
I agree.
So, hour 15 minutes. Been a while since we had one that long, but this is obviously a hot topic amongst Virginia Tech fans. So, if you've tuned in this entire episode, we appreciate it. I know it's a long one, but there's going to be a lot of updates that come out. Our friend Will Secores in the comments section, another potential job opening that we may have to consider. I don't, to be honest, he says Wisconsin's another one. I don't know that Wisconsin will impact Virginia Tech all that much. I feel like they may be recruiting from a different pool of candidates. I could be wrong, but that's just a gut feeling I have.
Wisconsin. Wisconsin and UCLA are two of them. Like, they don't really impact. Like, the only way that I think UCLA impacts Virginia Tech is if Virginia Tech was like actually in on Franklin. Like, I think UCLA is a job that Franklin would consider. He's been tied to the USC various openings they've had over the years. That's the only way I could even see those two searches crossing streams in any way. But yeah, I don't think Virginia Tech and Wisconsin are pulling from the same. I don't want to say same caliber of candidates. That's not what I mean. I just think they're going to be looking at different people.
Yeah, I agree. We'll have to wait and see how this search works out. We'll obviously be back with plenty of updates. Virginia Tech's on a bye this week. They're not playing this weekend, so we will not have a preview episode for you later in the week. However, we will connect here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and start previewing the Cal Golden Bears. And maybe we'll have some coaching news to discuss then. Who knows? By this point, another coach could get fired. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Seems like every week someone's biting the dust.
We're coming into a lot of teams are having bye weeks too, which if you lose a consequential game before a bye, that's always an easy point in time to pull the trigger.
Who's the next one, Mike?
Fickle.
Give me a name.
I'm shocked Fickle's got Oregon and Ohio State the next two games. Like, how he didn't get fired after what they just did against Iowa at home is shocking to me.
Could be. Yeah. I'll see next one to get canned.
I should have seen Oregon State coming, by the way. I didn't put that in my column, but like, Oregon State's been so bad and just like so off everybody's radar as they're playing in basically group of 5.
Yeah.
At this point,
the conference of 2.
Like, Trent Bray getting fired was an absolute layup.
Yeah. Although at a certain point you have to realize, like, what more do you expect from a program that's been in shambles since, what is it, Jonathan Smith? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Since he left for Michigan State.
That's, by the way, like, how you lose to UCLA like that. They got freaking.
Hey, man, UCLA's looked pretty good the last couple weeks.
Jerry Neuheisel-led offense, man. They're putting up points on everybody.
Somebody put this out on X. I thought it was funny. If you knew nothing about UCLA football, you would assume that he's the interim head coach.
Oh, because of how they're marketing it? Yeah.
Yeah. You would think that he was running the show.
It's crazy.
Regardless, we'll be back here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and preview Cal. We'll talk about some other ACC stuff. We'll make sure we put our picks out as well. We'll get together and do our picks offline and put those out really quick. A update on the picks. Mike, you and I are now tied for last. How's that feel?
Oh, good. Good news.
Andrew's 37-21. He went 4-2 this week. You and I went 2-4. You went 3-3. Izzy had a 4-2 week, and she's now 1 point ahead of us in the standings. She was the only one to correctly pick the Yellow Jackets covering this week, which they barely did, 14.5.
Because it went for 2 in the first quarter.
That's what a good coach does, I guess.
Vegas knows.
Counts Family Pharmacy, Home Field Apparel. Make sure you check out our supporters. We appreciate them. Home Field Apparel's got that promo code BeamerBall, get you 15% off your first order online at homefieldapparel.com. Make sure you go to our website, HokieHangoverPod.com. My column from the weekend is up there. All of our content is available there. Any kind of platform that you would want to consume Hokie Hangover on, you'll be able to access it via the website. Again, HokieHangoverPod.com. Any last words, Mike?
Nope. I think we're good. Got it covered.
Yep. We'll see you then. Take care. Until the next one, folks. Go Hokies.